Again, welcome to the Picote Xpress Coating System webinar. My name is Ryan Bolden, Global Learning Solutions Director for Picote, and along with Alan and Ule from Finland and Alan from our Phoenix Training Center, we'll be doing the hands-on portion. I'll let them introduce themselves when we get to that point. But we'll go ahead and get started. One quick note, if you have questions, on the Q&A screen at the top right of the Teams presentation, you'll be able to ask questions there and or email us and we can answer them afterwards if we don't get to them during the webinar. So we're going to go over quick just a little bit of the background of the Xpress system, some of the highlights on the pump, the reel, and the resin systems, and then also talk about some of the new things that have occurred over the last month or so, some of them even more recent, including some upgrades and updates. So the Xpress Coating System is our newest production of our coating lineup. It will coat 1.25" to 12" pipes with one system, and it has a reach of 131 feet. For the most part, we'll get into some of the differences when you get into the small diameter stuff later. Comes with a 32-foot corded remote, similar to the remote that you have seen on our mini and maxi coating pumps, if you're familiar with those, but has a little bit more functionality as well. The main differences really with the Xpress system versus what we've had before is that this system mixes at the far end via a static mixing nozzle. And what that allows us to do is create a resin with faster curing times. So we can get down to just under an hour with the Xpress system using the Picote heater, or approximately 90 minutes at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, even without the heater. If you're familiar with our DC1000E resin systems with the Mini and Maxi, those are more like 3 to 4 hours without heat and roughly 2.5 with the heater. So quite a big difference in cure times, and we'll go over some of the implications of that here in the next couple slides. But the resin itself is a single color. It's a gray. It's still a 1-to-1, or sorry, it's still 100% solids epoxy, but this resin system is a 1-to-1 ratio versus our previous systems, which were 1-to-2. And it has a thicker thickness profile. So as we're putting it on, and you guys will get to see that here live in a minute, it goes on at approximately about 1 millimeter per pass, where our previous system, current but still older system, is closer to 0.5 to 0.7 millimeters. So it takes some of that variability out and also just provides a nice thick coat. It will do 1.25" to 2" like I mentioned up above, but that's with the small diameter hose package that's included, and we'll talk about that here shortly as well. So the pump highlights, there it is there if you haven't seen it before. Vertical system has dual hydraulic resin cylinders and automates, basically the pressure is automatic. So there's really not a lot you have to do. It's very simple, very user-friendly. Comes with a built-in lithium-ion battery, which the biggest part about that is allowing you to have this system ready as far as heat in the cylinders and also on the heating blanket on the reel while you're in transport. So I can see, like, I believe Kevin's on here from Minnesota, I know, Wisconsin area as well with Hammerhead and his group. So if you've got your trailer or your van, you've got this unit room temperature or warmer already, but you have to go out on the job site. Now with that battery built into the system, you turn the heaters on, put it in the van or trailer, go to the job site, unload, and you're still at an optimum temperature versus having to wait. Then when you get to the job site, you can keep running it off battery, or you can also plug it in and then extend the working time. And with the new update we have that we'll talk about here, that working time basically becomes unlimited. It has tri-wheel stair climbers, as you can see there on the bottom, for going up and down stairs, and it makes it a lot easier. And we already talked about the resin heater, but it runs off the battery or plugged in and allows you to keep everything at the right temperature. The reel itself, that's where the 131 feet of delivery hoses are on. The nice thing about the reel and how the system works together is that once the very first time you initialize the system and prime the reel with the two resins, black and white, base and catalyst, from then on, it's almost instantaneous when you can start brushing. And you'll see the guys do it here in a second, but no longer do we have to pump externally, pump down a delivery hose and start mixing. Now, as soon as you push the trigger on the remote, you're mixing and pumping resin. The hoses are quick connect. They can only go in to the right side of the pump, or the correct side, I should say, so there's no danger of mixing which side is which. And basically, when you're done, you pull that assembly back out. It also has a motorized hose return if you want, with a speed control on it, so you don't have to do all the pulling back yourself. Cap them, and you're ready to go for the next time. So it takes out a ton of time and effort. It also comes with included a reel heating blanket, and I'll have the guys show it to you if they've got it there in Phoenix, but wraps around the outside of that hose reel and helps maintain the resin temperature as well. That is actually powered by the pump. So the reel plugs into the pump electrically as well, and that's what controls the temperature and allows the motorized hose return. So let's talk a little bit about the cost savings and kind of why we created this system. We knew we needed and wanted a faster curing system. So now we've got one, like I said before, is about 1 hour of cure time with the Picote heater, which is about 75% faster than our previous generations. The nice thing about the resin is, although the resin itself costs us about the same, because it's now in 3-gallon buckets, we've actually been able to reduce the price by 25%. About 35% compared to the fast cure, but 25% compared to normal DC1000E. There's also less waste in this system. So the previous systems, we had that delivery hose, you used it once per coat. If you're doing multiple coats, you were then taking that hose and the resin that was in it and discarding that. Now, since the hoses are basically reused forever, you don't lose any of that resin. We talked about the primed hose reel. That saves, depending on the system, mini or maxi, and how long you're coating, about 15 minutes per coat. And then you also don't have the waste of like the delivery hose we talked about, the pump hoses, the mixing cups, and some of that material. And then, of course, the labor savings, which is really big. And we've got a little example on the next screen that we'll show you, but basically all that time of waiting for it to cure and setup and pumping is a huge, not just labor savings, but financial savings as well. So part of a project that one of our resellers started working on, and I've even expanded it a little further here, but for an example, if you were doing 50 feet of 4-inch cast, we'd recommend 3 to 4 coats. This example has 4, and I won't bore you with all the details, and I can send this to anyone who wants it afterwards. Just email me at ryan@picotesolutions.com. But you're saving about $133 on the materials waste that we talked about with the hose, cups, that kind of thing. Labor, we picked a labor rate of $40, assuming 2 people. It's about almost $650 in savings there, because on the actual coating portion, that is. So it's about 3.8 hours versus 12 hours. So you can run that math and see how that works, definitely in the favor of the project. The resin waste we talked about 250 bucks, which takes the total cost per foot of labor and materials down to about $28 versus $55 with our mini maxi systems, which altogether makes that about almost a 50% savings on the project. So one of the things was, okay, well, that's great, but what does that mean as far as paying off either a purchase or the difference between the Express and the Mini and Maxi, because we do realize there's a different price point there. So I ran some math yesterday. The Express itself, if you're charging $175 per foot for 4-inch, which is about the average, it seems like in the US it's about 150 to 200 depending on the condition of the pipe and how much needs to be cleaned and some of those things. So, and geographic areas, but hypothetically at $175 a foot, the actual Express purchase itself payoff would take just over 7 projects of that nature. The difference, though, between, say, the Mini and Maxi pump together, which is what you'd need to do all the work that the Express can do, and the Express system would pay itself off in 25 projects in just the cost savings that are up above. But the real factor is all of that time, which would, basically it's 102 project hours or 204 labor hours in that 25 projects. So kind of reversing that and going backwards, that time savings, if you were completely booked, would allow a contractor to do almost 27 more coating projects. Could be anything, but we picked coating projects, or basically another 235,000 in revenue, or almost 200,000 in profit. So running all that math, if those time-saving hours were filled with coating jobs, the difference between buying a Mini, Maxi versus an Express is just over 2 projects. So kind of surprising even when I saw it myself, but it was a nice thing to see. So some of the updates that we have, this just started shipping this week to resellers. So if you've already purchased a pump, this will be coming. If you're purchasing one right now, they may or may not be holding on to the pump for a week to do this before you get there. But otherwise, it can be done after the fact. But pumps that were produced before this February, the power supply for the battery charger on them had a max charging power of 300 watts, which wasn't what we were expecting, but that's what it was providing. Which is fine, except that the pump heater consumes about 100 watts per cylinder, and there's 2 cylinders on there. And then if you're using the real heating blanket, that's 250 watts, which is 450 watts. Obviously, it's a little over the 300 watts. So hypothetically, if you took a unit out, say at 20% charge, hadn't charged the battery overnight, and we're running it with both heaters on and the blanket and running the trigger to pump, you might be down to hour and a half of pump time. So what we did was provide an upgraded power supply that started shipping this week, which is 850 watts, which is even more than we need. But that basically will provide unlimited working time if it's plugged in, full heat on the reel, cylinders, everything. So if you've already purchased a system and are just joining, or if you're looking to get one, that upgrade will be done by either Picote or a Picote Authorized Service Center. That's your resellers. The upgrade costs and the labor are covered by Picote. And if you have any questions on getting it done, whether yours has it or does not have it yet, just contact your reseller, or you can reach out to us at Picote with your serial number, and we can confirm that. The other new thing, which is included with the Express systems but was a little delayed in development, is the small diameter solution for 1 1/4 and 2-inch pipes. The hose reel itself and those hoses that come on it won't really do 2-inch or smaller. So what we have, you can kind of see in the pictures there, is a 2-inch package, which those clear hoses, we don't have the picture of that, but they connect into 2 black hoses, which basically are matched what's on the reel, but they plug directly into the pump. That is reusable minus the static mixing tip, and the wide fitting, and it is 49 feet in that package. The 1 1/4 one to the right is basically an additional piece that goes onto the end, but you get 5 disposable hoses and that coupling, and that's 16 feet long. So by that math, if you needed to or wanted to, which would probably be rare, but for 2-inch, you could actually run it combined that way and have a little over 65 feet. I don't know anybody doing 65 feet of 2-inch, but it is at least possible now with this system. The reason the 1.25 is limited to 16 feet is in every other scenario, you're mixing right at the tip and brushing the system in. But in this one, you're mixing at that tip, pushing that mixed resin down through that 16 feet. And because of the much faster reaction time of the resin, we're kind of limited to that distance. But working with all of our contractors and trainees in that situation, talking about that, they were more than fine with that much distance of 1.25 inches. So it comes in a Picote medium-sized tool bag. You'll be getting it from your resellers here shortly. They just shipped out this week, so depending on shipping, resellers should probably be getting them at the end of next week, and then getting them out to anyone who's either purchased one or obviously be adding it to their inventory. One thing of note, if you can see on the far right, the top one is the new small diameter mixing tip and fitting, and the one below is this, what we were calling the standard one for 3-inch through 12-inch. And we'll be continuing with that for now, but as we kind of run through the stock of the standard one, we'll roll over and everybody will be using the small mixing tip, small fitting for all pipe diameters, 1.25 all the way through 12-inch. Just keeps things simpler for you guys, keeps it simpler for us, keeps costs down, and it works just as fine. Just the one for the small diameter is a little smaller and longer, which makes it more flexible, which is good in all situations. All right. I have finished with that portion of it. I'm going to turn over to Ule and Alan in Phoenix, and they're going to go ahead and run through an actual demo of the pump and reel and show that system in actual visual detail. And of course, like I said, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section, and we'll do our best to answer them at the end.
All right. My name is Ulla Tauros. I work out of the Porvoo Picote Solutions Training Center. And welcome and we're happy that you joined us here in Phoenix today for this webinar. This pump we just set up yesterday, so it came the other week. Yeah. Last week, and we set it up. So we'll just quickly go through the setup process of a new pump. What you get in the package is what you see here. We have the pump itself, we have the reel, and we have the blanket there leaning against the reel. The blanket for the reel that Ryan mentioned earlier. First step you do is you, of course, check the operation of the pump, that nothing has been damaged in shipping. Each pump is tested before they leave, so they will have an oil inside that we do the operational testing with. That oil needs to be pumped out. So when you have checked that everything moves, everything reacts as it should be, you start by filling up the hoppers. The resin comes in buckets, catalyst and base. Base goes in the white bucket, catalyst in the black bucket. We fill them all the way up. And after that, we start by driving the hoppers up. So we're pulling the resin from the hoppers into the cylinders down there. Emergency check that the pump is safe. Operations check, and we're ready to draw in resin. So while the pistons are rising, the resin from the hoppers is pulled in to the cylinders and ready to pump out. First time you do this with a brand new pump, we recommend you don't have the hoses connected from the reel in order to act as a valve. and not pull the oil back in. So we do that 3 times. Pull the hoppers up, close the valves, compress. 3 times that same operation, and we have the hoses flushed from oil, and we have resin coming out the end. That is discarded because the oil dilutes the resin, which means that you will not be getting the coat that you are looking for. So the pump has a control unit. You can either have a guy like me here helping the guy coating, or the guy coating can have this attached to his belt and hold the trigger in the other hand. It's a toggle switch. We have an emergency stop, and we also have the hose reeling button over here, so you can reel it. We can also adjust the speed of the actuators. This is used for when filling. While coating, you don't really need to ever have any more than the lowest setting. Pumping wise, this pushes out almost double the amount of product compared to our maxi pump, and 3 times more than the mini pump. We're just reaching the top here. We did the initial setup process yesterday, which means that we already have resin in the system and we have already pumped out the oil. So we're going to reverse direction, close the valves, and start going down. I'm just waiting for the pressure to rise down there on the base gauge, and then I'll close the catalyst. So right now we have the hoses coming from the reel set in recirculation mode, so they're coming back up air into the hoppers, which means that what we're pressing out through the hoses is coming right back in here. Just going to do that to equalize the resin, see that we have that all the way out. After that, we can start coating.
Hey, well, while you're doing that real quick, someone asked about filling the cracks and the holes, and of course, I'd answer them on the chat, but we know that it's going to do more than the previous system because of the thickness, but we still haven't finalized an answer. But one of the questions, Alan, if we can do it before we start pumping, was whether or not we could drill some holes in that pipe so they could visually see that. I don't know if you've got a drill handy or if maybe you've already done it.
They grind the slice into it.
There you go. Or a slice, yeah, cut or hole or both. Vito had asked. Our current system, we say per pass, I believe it's, Alan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, eighth inch on cracks and, or sorry, eighth inch in holes and quarter inch in cracks per pass. We're not exactly sure what this new resin will do at its max, but I know Richard and the UK team, I believe, we're doing some testing next week to just finalize our answer. But perfect. You may, once we get coating, we may have to zoom in with the GoPro, but definitely has a nice slice there.
All right. We get debris in the pipe. So we're set up and ready to go. Alan, do you want to go over the business end?
Your mic's not working, Alan. Nope.
All right, I guess I'll use Olaf's. Well, what I was saying was, of course, we attach our brushes on the leader. It's, of course, depending on the machine, it's the usual setup as the mini pump, because we're using a mini miller. We attached the mixing tip and the camera, and now we're basically ready to go. We're just waiting on grabbing our hoses and attaching our hoses, and then applying some more tape so that you have more stability as you go in the pipe. So I'll leave my setup right in the pipe. And
as mentioned, this the
Yeah, there's the mixing tip and Y fitting. That's basically the only waste with the system that gets discarded each time, but that's basically it.
And the great part is I'm not in a rush, so I can disconnect one hose.
And he's doing this. If any of you used or seen our previous systems, this is definitely a lot cleaner, easier. And as Alan said, there's no rush. Nothing's mixed yet, so you can take all the time in the world to get everything just how he wants it before he presses the trigger and starts mixing. People often ask, I'll go ahead and listen while he's putting that in, like, okay, so coating versus lining. When should you coat? When should you line? We used to always say that when you can line it, and if not, coat it. A lot of that was due to time factors and price factors as far as materials and the cost to the end customer. It's still generally our recommendation, but now with the new Express system, the time is so close to even a hot water cure, and the pricing per foot of materials is a lot closer as well. So now maybe that's not our standard answer any longer, but coating is especially useful in small diameters, lots of corners and turns, especially 90s. It also is super useful if you've got a lot of reinstatements to do if you were doing lining, because if you don't already do them, you should know. Say you line over 3 connections. Well, besides cleaning that pipe, you should really be cleaning those connection pipes too, so you can get the twisters and the smart cutter down there. So with coating, you don't have to worry about any of the side connections. You just coat the part you want to coat. Of course, you've cleaned that first, and then you're done. All right, sorry, Alan, go ahead.
Okay, so we're ready to purge our mixing tip. As you can see, what you want to do is make sure the resin properly mixes before you stick it in the pipe. So dumping a little excess until you get that consistent color. And I'm just about there already. That's good. You just let it finish dripping. Can you pass me your rag, please? So I let it drip out a little longer, so I got a little bit less stream. Grab it. I'm going to push it all the way down my line. All right, I'm there.
On. This is how fast the resin starts pumping. It's already coming out. We'll now set up the camera. We can adjust basically by having the button pressed or then depress it in between. Coating in itself has not changed. So we are looking for the bead around brush's edges. Making tool.
Let's pull a little bit more. Going into a bend. Turn that screen.
The actual install process very similar, or well, really almost identical to our DC1000E system as far as the application. Obviously, this resin's thicker, goes on a little, I wouldn't say easier, but smoother and thicker. But the process itself, if you already own a mini or maxi pump, is pretty much the same once you get to that point. Alan's just looking for that proper bead, which tells him that it's the right amount of resin. Actually shows it pretty good on this new system. Well, I like the new GoPro. One of the
I'm
things.
just moving back and forth.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm just moving back and forth to make sure I get a consistent coat. And applying it evenly, making sure I don't miss no spots. And as I'm coming up to the crack, I want to make sure I can see that crack and fill it in nicely.
What I don't think I mentioned it yet, but obviously our guys here, they're inside our Phoenix Training Center. You can see the crack actually starting to get filled in with resin there. But Alan's our head technical trainer in the US. And one of the things we do is hands-on brush coating certification, certified installer training, which of course goes over all the tooling, cleaning, and of course the coating systems and the application over a 2-day period. And that 2-day training allows certified installers to also be backed by a 10-year manufacturer's product warranty on the resin.
Okay, it's going to come out a lot. It's fine.
You could just see there, we had the crack there on the, it was quite a wide crack that we had on the side of the pipe. See if we got it all with one, or if we need to go to another one. Have a go.
In the bucket.
All right, so we're here at the end of the pipe. We reached the end there, we're just going to stop the brushes, pull it out. Here you can finish with a manual brush and clean up the end there. We had the pump reeling feature, as we mentioned earlier. The control is there on the doing the coatings control bosses. Now we're gonna pull off the product hoses one by one, reattach them to the pump, then we can carry on with cleaning the brushes. I can't see any light inside the pipe, which means that we did close that slit that we did with the angle grinder. So setup time, and therefore also pressure a bit. So setup time was significantly shorter than with our previous system. And so is this cleanup time. Right now, the pump is back in the original position and ready to go like when we started. Like so, pump is ready.
First, you discard the mixing tip.
Yep.
Clean your brushes. And here you go.
Thank you.
And that's basically how fast cleanup is with the new system, which is very nice. Alan will run the brushes via the miller
Acetone.
into some acetone to clean up. You can reuse the brushes. Don't need to throw those away each time. It's a waste, and it's pretty easy to just quickly clean them up. One of the questions earlier that had come up was resin life and using it in the reel. So the reel is obviously primed. It's got the resin inside of it. And once they're done, or once you're done with the entire project, you would cap off those supply feed lines and store it. So as you keep it stored at the normal recommended resin temperature, which you should be keeping the bucketed resin as well, that resin should last for quite a long time, almost as long as, there we go, there's the caps. Almost as long as the shelf life. We're currently saying that if you've had the reel sitting there unused for more than 3 months, we recommend just doing a quick recycle reconditioning of the resin, which I don't know if you can kind of talk through real quick, Ole, but it's pretty simple. It's almost what he showed when you're first doing it, but I'll let you maybe explain what the reconditioning process is, especially if someone let the resin get too cold in storage.
Yeah, so basically you turn on the pump, add the heater to the reel, even though your ambient temperature might be during a warm environment, still use the heater because it might have gotten a bit clumpy. Let the heaters run for 20 to 30 minutes. Then you drive the pump all the way down, add new resin on top. First, make sure that these are empty, the fill tanks. Pull the new resin in, do 3 compression strokes. Then you have purged all the old resin and you have new resin in the whole system. And you're ready to go. Shall we try?
Should I correct? Well, what I can do is do this.
Go with the camera.
You can lower the LEDs and not as bright. That better?
So the
Foggy.
more cleaner. That was quite a wide cut. What would you say?
Yeah, I filled it up completely.
Yeah, on the inside there is no light. You can actually show that. I'll grab a flashlight.
Fork.
Yeah, and that's just with one pass. So that's 4-inch pipe. So we generally are doing even 3 to 4 passes, but you know, from the outside, it looks like there's still a gap as you look inside. Doesn't look like, actually, yeah, there's no light even coming in from the crack. So
Yep. No light at all. That crack was filled completely.
I'm gonna put you guys both on the spot, since you both come from the actual contracting world before you came to Picote. Olaf even owned his own business, ran multiple crews and teams, and Alan's done tons of stuff in the field. From your side, not even wearing your Picote hats, what would you say are you most impressed with or like about the Xpress system versus other things out there, including even our other system?
Simplicity.
Yeah. The ease of use.
Like you have to get, of course, your mindset in that this is not supposed to be like dragged around in next to every spot that you're going to go. That's why we have 130 feet. So put this in a central location. You can even have it in the van, have it in the trailer if you're working really close, and then just drag the hoses over. So that makes it super simple. Like it goes down, it goes up, and it pushes resin.
Yeah.
It's just that easy. So yeah.
And I'm impressed on how much resin is pushed, because I've used other systems and this one applies a thicker coat throughout the entire pipe, and it's because of the amount of resin that is pushed. It's super simple to use, and you could pick up any miller and coat.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Of course, it makes it pretty fast. Much setup time. once it's primed, you have resin in the system, you've done the initial purge of the testing oil. You saw the setup and you saw the cleanup here live. So that's what it is really on the site also.
Very, very simple, which is good.
Yes.
One other thing, just let everyone know if you haven't been onto the site, and I'll share my screen real quick before I turn it back over to you guys. You go to the Picote Institute, which is picoteinstitute.com. You can create a free profile, and on there, in addition to e-learning courses, which we will have one coming out on the Xpress system, support documents and all of that type of material, under the coding section, there is a resin usage calculator, one for the Mini and Maxi and one for the new Xpress system. If you go to that page and download it, it downloads an Excel, which will answer all the questions about how much material would I need for, X diameter pipe at Y distance with this many coats. Helps you bid jobs and just, of course, make sure you have enough resin on hand for the project you're looking at. So that's picoteinstitute.com. I don't know if you guys have anything. I don't see any more questions coming in right now. Let's see. Oh, Kevin had a question. When should we expect the small diameter kit to be shipped for the earlier units? Last I heard, it all went out as of today. There may be one or two still going out on Monday. So obviously those are coming from Finland, from our production center there. Resellers should be getting them within roughly a week. So resellers would have them then. And then of course, some will be hand delivered, I guess, some would be shipped. Or of course, if there's a system sitting there that hasn't been sold and delivered yet, after probably the end of next week, it would already have it with it. See if there's anything else here. All right, I think that's it on the questions. I don't know, Ule or Alan, if you have anything else you guys wanted to add, or if not.
No, thank you for joining.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We really appreciate it. We'll have this webinar, obviously it's been recorded. We'll post it up on the Picote Institute and our other pages here early next week in case some of the people who signed up missed it, or if you want to go back and review. And of course, any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us at Picote. My email, like I said, is ryan@picotesolutions.com, but you can reach out to any of us. You can also go to our website at www.picotegroup.com for a lot more resources and information and contacts. And then, of course, like I said, the Picote Institute, which is our online learning and resource center. But thanks, everyone. Have a great Friday, a great weekend. And as always, if there's anything Picote can do to assist, just let us know.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.